Welcome you all again in the certificate course on instrumental analysis and techniques in the chemistry. In today's session, in particular this lecture, we will discuss about the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, and about the safe disposal of all the used or the unused chemicals which are slightly being left in the different apparatus. So let's start today's lecture about all these. 3 R's and the safe disposal of waste chemicals. 3 R's, as I already told you, 3 R's means reduce, reuse, recycle. Means in this particular session, we will discuss all about these. How can we dispose the different unused chemicals in a very safe manner? Means the chemicals which are being wasted in the chemistry laboratory, in which way we can dispose out these chemicals, how can we reduce the use of the chemicals, how can we reuse the chemicals, and how can we recycle the chemicals which are going to be wasted. हमें किसी भी chemical को waste नहीं होने देना, तो how can we reduce? If we use the chemical in a very less amount, in so much less amount कि हमारा जो प्रैक्टिकल है फिर भी हम एसेस कर सकते हैं, हम फिर भी एनालाइज कर पाए. सो दैट इज द वे कि हाउ कैन वी रिड्यूस द यूज ऑफ द केमिकल्स एंड वी कैन bring our society towards the greener technology. In the previous lecture also, we already discussed about the different safety symbols. There are different alternate greener methods for the experimentation in the teaching chemistry also. So first of all, we will discuss about the safe disposal. What is the need of the safe disposal? Because if we get disposed out the different chemicals anywhere on the earth surface, it causes the soil pollution. If we dispose out the chemicals anywhere else, then it will also causes the air pollution, the soil pollution. If we dispose out the radioactive substance anywhere else, it may cause even to the death of animals to a large extent. So the need of this safe disposal is the primary need of the hour. Looking at the alarming situation at present, it is our prime duty to look into this matter at a very higher priority. So our country, our nation, our government are also very much aware about all these in all the institution at the primary school level, college level, university level, everywhere, every authorities, every institutions are very much aware about all these, because today is very alarming situation. अगर हम आज ही नहीं संभले तो कल का दिन हमारे लिए अच्छा नहीं होगा. So it is the proper time to become aware themselves, also aware others in the whole society. हमें पूरी सोसाइटी को अवेयर करना होगा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, किसी ने कहीं पे किसी केमिकल को डिस्पोज ऑफ कर दिया सोसाइटी के अंदर, आपने देखा कि कहीं और जाके उसको डाल दिया, सोसाइटी के किसी पर्सन ने देखा कि यहाँ पे तो केमिकल है, तो उसकी प्राइम ड्यूटी बनती है कि वो फिर अवेयर हो उस चीज के प्रति, और फिर जो भी इंस्टीट्यूशन है, जो अथॉरिटीज हैं पर्टिकुलर, वहां पे जाके उनको इंफॉर्मेशन दे के आई हैव सीन सो मच अमाउंट ऑफ केमिकल्स दैट बीन थ्रोन आउट in that particular area, so that particular chemicals may be taken out from that area, because these all things can be eaten by the animals, and that will be very highly dangerous for these animals. Our laboratories are also producing a large amount of the pollution. Hence, we should strictly tell our students to adhere to all the guidelines which are being issued time to time, and also to ensure minimal amount of the environmental pollution from our chemistry laboratory. We must have to develop very good practices in our chemistry laboratory. We must have all the knowledge about the chemical safety and about the safe disposal techniques. So it is actually the responsibility of everyone, not only the chemistry teachers, but all the teachers which are been working in the institution, all must have been aware, all must have to restrict the students के use the chemicals in a particular way that it causes the least pollution. So it is actually the responsibility of everyone who uses the chemistry laboratory. That may be the laboratory attendant, that may be the sweeper, that may be the student. But the safe management of the chemicals begins mainly with the teachers who orders and use these products. जो केमिस्ट्री के टीचर, जो केमिस्ट्री फैकल्टी है, जो लेबोरेटरी के अंदर जाके बच्चों को इंस्ट्रक्शन देगी, वही इंस्ट्रक्शन स्टूडेंट को स्ट्रिक्टली फॉलो करनी ही होंगी. अदरवाइज टीचर्स को, लेबोरेटरी स्टाफ को वेरी स्ट्रिक्ट रहना चाहिए इस पर्टिकुलर डायरेक्शन के अंदर. So to ensure the safe management of the chemicals in the classroom or in the laboratory, it requires that a teacher must have adequate knowledge of all these chemicals to be used and what harmful interaction they can do in terms of the safety hazards and how they can be safely disposed of. Now, a material safety data sheet, that is the MSDS, is designed by the government, by the different chemical industries, higher authorities, in which way we must have to use the chemicals. The MSDS provides the information about all the chemicals. MSDS contain information on the potential hazards, the health, the fire, the reactivity, and how to work safely with the chemicals in the chemical industry, in the laboratory, in all the institutions. It also contains information on the use, about their storage, about their handling, how we can handle a particular chemical in the laboratory. If anything emergency arise, then how the emergency procedure all related to these hazards of the material can be carried out. It also contains much more information about the material than the label one. MSDS are prepared by the suppliers, by the manufacturers of the chemical industries. MSDS tells what the hazards of the product are, how to use the product safely, what to expect if the recommendations are not followed, what to do if the accident occur, how to recognize the symptoms of our exposure, and what to do if such accidents occur. We must all follow the instructions which are given time to time by the class teachers to the students. So all students must aware about all these. What are the antidotes and what first aid measures can be taken in case of the accident from a particular chemical? Antidotes are those measures or those chemicals which can be used during the inhalation of the vapors, dangerous vapors, or the ingestion of the dangerous chemicals. So what are the other chemicals which can neutralize the effect of these dangerous chemicals? These all chemicals which neutralize the harmful effect called the antidotes. If something person been exposed to the chemicals which may be dangerous to the environment, to the human beings, to the animals, which may also lead to the death, which is very harmful for the all human beings, all living organisms. Many chemicals can lead to the cancer and even death on prolonged exposure. There are many carcinogenic compounds in our laboratory, like the nickel, cadmium, radon, vinyl chloride, benzene, H2S gas, etc. These are generally being used in the chemicals. These are generally being used in chemical laboratory during the detection of the different acid basic radical, during the qualitative analysis, during the synthesis. During all these experiments, we generally use these chemicals. These are very highly dangerous. So always use these chemicals with all the instruction which are being laid down by the chemical industries, which are being laid down by the higher authorities, which are being laid down by the government, which are laid down by the chemistry faculty teachers during the experimentation, before the experimentation process, and which are also being laid down time to time by the all the laboratory attendant which are been working in these chemical laboratories from a very longer time. So that is the basic reason why we generally not transfer all the laboratory attendant, as it is the responsibility of all the chemistry teacher. We should minimize their use. We must use the chemical in very limited amount. The chemical fumes are generated in larger amount, as they are also very dangerous to both student as well as the teacher. So we must use these chemicals. We must do these experiments in the cupboards where a proper exhaust must be there. Otherwise, these all fumes will be spread in whole of the college, which are very dangerous to all the students, all the person, to our nature also. It also leads to major environmental pollution, leading to the clogging lab sinks, dumped paper eaten by the animals, etc. So there must be the proper disposal at a proper place. To solve all these alarming problems, we should take active measures to make our environment safe by making less pollutants going out from our chemistry laboratory. So we must adapt that 3 R's policy, that is the reduce, reuse, and the recycle in our chemistry laboratory will definitely help in the minimizing, and that can all be done by minimizing the uses of the chemical, reduce the waste of the chemicals, and the environmental pollution finally been reduced. It will also be the economically way of teaching chemistry experiment. उससे हमारी जो इकोनॉमी है वो भी improve होगी if we use the lesser amount of the chemical in a very limited amount of the chemical. If we use the chemicals in such a less amount that can solve our experimentation process, जो हमारी एक्सपेरिमेंटेशन की प्रोसेस है उसको भी सोल्व कर दे, और pollution भी कम से कम हो, that is the most efficient way, and that is the first R, that is the reduce the use of the chemical. Reduce means the chemicals or the reagents should be used in minimal amount, and the alternate approach should be localized. For example, during the preparation, rather than starting any of the synthesis with 1, 2, or the 5 gram, we can start our synthesis by taking a very less amount, even 0.25 gram or even 0.1 gram, because that such less amount will also give the same result. During the qualitative organic or the inorganic analysis, we can stop using the big test tube of 10 ml or the 20 ml. We can put the very less amount on a tile, and a particular tiles designed for the chemistry laboratory. We must promote the use of the semi micro analysis by using a very small less test tube of 1 ml, 2 ml, etc., or the groove styles, as we already told you. On the groove style, just bring or put 1 or 2 drops, and not to take the large amount of the chemicals in the 10 or the 20 ml test tube. If we put 1 to 2 drops of the chemical on the groove tiles, then add another chemical to find out the result on that same groove tiles in very less amount, that will give the same result. So in this way, we can reduce the pollution, we can reduce the use of the chemicals, and thus finally we all are going to approach towards the greener technology by reducing the use of these chemicals in such a particular way. So methods like the spot testing can be used, which also will ensure the use of the minimal amount of these reagents. The spot test can be done on the Waterman filter paper, on the groove styles, as we already discussing, and also on the cotton cloth, depending upon the type of the reaction. Next point is the reuse. If we are carrying out the experiment, if we synthesize something material, that particular synthetic material can be used in the another class, in the another batch. So we must, and that all can be done if we, during the framing of the whole syllabi of the practicals, we must frame whole of the syllabi in such a way that if we are preparing something substance, that must be reused in the another experimentation. So in such a way, we can do the experiments, we can cover whole of the syllabi, and thus we can reuse the chemicals. So the product of one experiment can be used as the starting material of the other. For example, stop throwing the chemical compound prepared in the lab in the sink or in the dustbin, or just by putting them in the sample file. Collect the compounds prepared by the entire class in one bottle, in spite of throwing all the product in the sink or the dustbin, which can be stored in the bottle with proper labeling and the date, on which date we have prepared that particular compound, which can be used in another synthesis. Later on, it can be purified by the crystallization process. So the crystallization experiment can be carried out in such a way, can be purified by the distillation, or it can further be used during the organic functional group determination analysis. We can assign the project to the students to reuse the product via the multi-step synthesis and having minimal byproduct. Always coordinate with some nearby chemical industries and design your curriculum and assign the project in such a manner where the student can prepare those particular chemicals which the industry needs as the starting material. So in this way, we can reuse the chemical, and thus the pollution can be reduced to a larger extent, and we can proceed towards the greener technology, which is the need of the hour. Reuse, the product of one experiment can be used as the starting material of the other, as we already told you. Alternatively, the organic compound prepared in the preparation experiment or the derivative prepared in the organic compound analysis can be used in the extra element detection during the functional group determination. In the organic functional group determination, the first step is always the detection of the extra element. So the product which been prepared, the organic compounds which been prepared during any of the synthesis, if that final product has something extra element like the nitrogen, sulfur, or the halogens, then the same product can be given in the another batch in the another class whose syllabi have the organic functional group determination. So don't tell students to prepare the sample books for pasting compound or the crystal prepared in the laboratory in the previous time. Generally, the teacher asks the students to take the sample in the poly bag and paste it in the practical notebook. But don't do like that activity, because it causes the pollution, because such chemicals may comes out through these poly bags, and these chemical may get stick on the notebook, and you are generally using this notebook even at the home, which may enter your body and thus causes the very harmful effect on your health. So never adopt such type of procedure as generally been adopted in the previous time. This will ultimately go into the environment. As we already told you, there is a chemical along with that, and that can be really hazardous if any animal or the person in your home eat it, because there may be a very small children in your home which can take your notebook at any of the time just for the playing purposes also. If they touch that notebook, practical notebook, and they simultaneously been eating something else, that may be the dangerous for them also. So never adopt that procedure, paste the compound or the crystal which been prepared in the laboratory in your notebook in the form of the sample. Or alternatively, we can use the ICT tools. Just take the picture and store as a proof, Any inorganic salt which has been prepared in the laboratory by one batch of the students can be given to the another for the cationic or the anionic analysis in the another batch of the students, rather than giving them a fresh salt of the cation and the anion for the analysis. It is very economical also, because the wastage of the money also been reduced in that way. You can think, if the same procedure been done in the one laboratory, for example, in any of the college there are 10 laboratory, in all the college how much laboratory, in the whole state so much large number of laboratory, in the whole country so much larger number of laboratory in the university institutions. By adopting the same procedure, we can save so much large amount of the chemicals. We can save our themselves, our institution, for purchasing so much large amount of the chemicals, and thus we can, जो economy है, we can improve the economy of the institution, of the state, of the country. Store the unused inorganic solutions prepared for the titration experiment in the labeled jar. They can be reused in the another batches for the titration. The leftover standard solution can be collected from the entire class and can be given as an unknown solution for the next batch also. Organic solvent can be distilled. Never throw the bottles with the chemicals in them. Chemicals in the old bottles can be recrystallized, can be distilled, and use them rather than discarding them as a trash. Don't throw any of the plastic or the broken glass apparatus and the bottles in the dustbin, because these can generally be eaten by the stray animals, and that will be very harmful for their life. So always store them separately and give them further for the recycling process. Now we can do the safe disposal habits, drainage of the chemicals from the chemistry laboratory, from the sink, safe disposal of the liquid solutions, safe disposal of the solids, safe disposal of the chemical waste is very important. The sum of the chemicals can be drained safely, but they need to be run down through drain with a larger amount of the water. In the safe disposal of the liquid or the solutions, one can collect these waste solution in a proper labeled container, store used organic solvent separately in the separate racks, store the hallucinated organic liquid separately in the separate bottles. For example, if we have a mixture of chloroform and the acetone that can explode, hence they should be stored separately. We must have the complete knowledge about these safe disposal. We have the complete knowledge which two chemicals can be stored collectively and which can be stored separately if they left unused. Store the following inorganic solutions separately in the different containers: the waste acid solution in the separate container, waste basic or the alkaline solution in the separate container, waste inorganic solution in something another separate container. How can we do the safe disposal of the solid? Never throw the filter or the Wattman paper having the chemicals in them in the dustbin. Put them in a pit for the biodegradation. An environmental committee must be constituted not only at the college level but also at the chemistry department level to look after all the various experiments which you carried out time to time, and to evolve the methods for these 3 R's. Always adapt that 3 R's and how to safe dispose all the chemicals. That must be there, must adapt a very best possible way for the environment. We must always practice all the environmental friendly techniques to save our environment. So for all these we must adapt. It is the need of the demand, need of the, it is the time, it is the very curious time, it is very alarming situation now. We must have to adapt that 3 R's method in the chemistry laboratory, everywhere, in the medical industry also. Hazardous waste is the waste that poses a threat or the risk to the public health, the safety, or you can say the for the environment also. This include waste generated in the laboratory waste, which also referred to as the prescribed industrial waste. We must have to provide a secondary container for the waste collection. Always keep waste container closed at all the time except when adding or removing the waste, because their vapors, their smell, that will cause the pollution in the environment through the air pollution. The paste container, so that waste labels are visible, that must be face forward, so that these can easily be visible to all of them, okay, which type of waste should be added in which of the container. Maintain 10% free space in all the waste container to allow the expansion. We generally, all these things which we are adding in the container that may expand, so always maintain the 10% free space in all the waste container to allow the expansion. Remove waste container from the laboratory latest by the next day, otherwise they start causing the pollution in the nearby area. Attend and document the annual training for all the persons generating hazardous waste. A particular training is necessary for all the person, in all the faculty persons of the chemistry, for all the faculty persons of the whole of the institution from time to time, which are generating these hazardous waste. That training also be must for all the persons which are not being generating the hazardous waste, because that all the person must be aware about all these safe disposal of the chemicals. Conduct and maintain weekly inspection of the hazardous waste collection area. There are some chemical accidents list. In 2005 in June, Delhi, the 20 children suffered injuries while participating in the rally for the World Day Against Child Labor at the India Gate when hydrogen balloons burst into the flames. In 2017 September in the Bangalore, 3,000 balloons used to decorate the birthday party hall exploded as they were filled with the hydrogen instead of the helium. So we must be aware about all these, okay, by which gas the balloons should be filled up, which type of gas are harmful for us if any of the explosion can take place. In the year 2018 November in the Hyderabad, 6 people were injured after the hydrogen balloon exploded at a rally. In 2019 also, in the January 2019 Rajkot, Gujarat, 4 people injured on explosion of the hydrogen balloons. The balloons filled with hydrogen gas may be cheap but are very dangerous, as they can react explosively to cause the fire, to catch the fire, while the helium gas being inert, as we all know, that is the group 18 element, that helium gas being inert or non-reactive, that is very safe to use for this filling of the balloons. Our government banned the import of the solid plastic waste. The Ministry of the Environment, Forest and the Climate Change has amended the hazardous and the other waste rules in the 2016 to completely ban the import of the solid plastic waste. In the conclusion form, we can say that there is the utmost need for the safe disposal of the chemicals, both in the whether that the chemical is present in the liquid form or in the solid form. Each institution should take the proper measures to protect the environment from their laboratory waste. The teachers and the students all must be aware about that MSDS, that is the material safety data sheet rules, these different rules which are mentioned in that particular sheet. The student should be made aware of the red list chemicals, which are those chemicals which should not be directly disposed of in the sink. And these are which basic things which must be known by all the person living on the world. पूरी धरती के ऊपर जितने भी लोग रहते हैं, सभी को जनरली पूरी की पूरी एमएसडीएस जो शीट है उसके बारे में अवेयर करने की आवश्यकता है. जरूरी नहीं कि सिर्फ केमिकल इंडस्ट्री, जो केमिस्ट्री के पर्सन हैं, जो केमिस्ट्री लेबोरेटरी में काम कर रहे हैं, उन्हीं पर्सन्स को इसकी नॉलेज हो, क्योंकि हर घर में कोई ना कोई बच्चा, कोई ना कोई स्टूडेंट तो होता ही है जो किसी ना किसी इंस्टीट्यूशन में जाएगा, वहां पे वो केमिकल्स के टच में तो जरूर आएगा. तो अगर हर पर्सन, हर घर में हर किसी को अवेयर कर दिया जाए, तो अपने बच्चों को अवेयर करेंगे, और जिसकी वजह से जितने भी एक्सीडेंट हो सकते हैं उनके होने के चांस कम हो जाएंगे. सो वी मस्ट, सो इट इज द रिक्वायरमेंट, इट इज द अर्जेंसी नाउ, और ये प्राइम ड्यूटी भी बनती है हर पर्सन की सबसे पहले तो केमिस्ट्री टीचर्स की ही ये ड्यूटी बनती है कि वो अपनी सोसाइटी के अंदर जाके कुछ कैंप लगा के हर किसी को अवेयर करे। सो दैट इज ऑल्सो ए वेरी गुड सोशल आउटरीच प्रोग्राम, कि अगर हम हर किसी को अवेयर करें इस चीज के बारे में जो आज हमने पूरे लेक्चर के बारे में बताया, दैट इज ऑल्सो ए पार्ट ऑफ द सोशल आउटरीच प्रोग्राम regarding spreading the awareness about the use of the chemicals, in which way we must have to dispose all the chemicals, we must in देखो सिमिलरली इसी वे में ही तो हम, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया कुछ चीजें कॉमन भी तो हैं जो घर में हम, प्लास्टिक तो हम घर में भी यूज करते हैं, जो एवरीथिंग इन द सराउंडिंग इज द केमिकल। जो घर में हम देखो गेहूं भी खाया, दैट इज ए केमिकल, वाटर लिया दैट इज ए केमिकल, सॉल्ट यूज किया दैट इज ए केमिकल, हल्दी मिर्च नमक जो भी आप घर में यूज करते हो एवरीथिंग इज केमिकल। तो उस केमिकल का प्रॉपर डिस्पोजल करना हमें आना चाहिए, प्रॉपर यूज करना हमें आना ही चाहिए। सो वी मस्ट, so it is the prime duty of all the person to spread the awareness in the whole society, so that is the proper platform, यानी that is also a social outreach program। तो इसीलिए सभी को अपने सोशल आउटरीच प्रोग्राम के अंदर इस चीज को भी हिस्सा बनाना चाहिए। सो द पॉलिसी ऑफ द 3 Rs, that is the part of the social reach program, to spread the awareness about the environment protection, to spread the to spread the awareness about the uses of the chemicals, because that causes the pollution in the environment. For the pollution protection, we must have adopt that policy of the 3 Rs. So 3R policy must be adopted, that is to reduce the amount of the chemical, to maximize reuse the waste chemicals, making proper recycling methods. The method like the precipitation, distillation, incineration should be adapted for recycling the waste chemicals. So thank you all about, ये सिर्फ मेरी एक पहल थी आज के लेक्चर के थ्रू आप सभी को अवेयर करने की। आपको जो मेरी ये जो मैंने पहल की, जो शुरुआत की, ऐसे ही हर इंडस्ट्री के अंदर, हर इंस्टीट्यूशन के अंदर सभी टीचर इस टाइप का कोई ना कोई प्रोग्राम तो करते ही हैं। मेरा सभी से रिक्वेस्ट है, सभी जो टीचर्स जो हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं और साथ के साथ वो सारे स्टूडेंट्स जो आज के लेक्चर को अभी सुन रहे हैं, उन सभी की ये प्राइम ड्यूटी बनती है कि हमारी इस पहल को, हमारी सोच को आप बेकार नहीं जाने देंगे। आप सभी को इसको स्प्रेड करना है। आप इस बात को अगर फर्दर 10% में स्प्रेड करते हैं, उन 10% को कहें वो फर्दर 10% में स्प्रेड करें, एंड सो ऑन, हमारी लॉन्ग चेन बन जाएगी और फाइनली वी मस्ट प्रोसीड, वी कैन अचीव द ग्रीनर टेक्नोलॉजी। हम अपने इन्वायरमेंट को पूरी तरह से बचा सकते हैं, उसको प्रोटेक्ट कर सकते हैं, उसको पोल्यूशन लेस बना सकते हैं। ग्रीनर टेक्नोलॉजी को हम अचीव कर पाएंगे। सो थैंक यू फॉर कीपिंग पेशेंस, फॉर लिसनिंग मी। थैंक यू।